I love that voice. Morning, guys. Thank you for joining us this morning. I hope you're all keeping well and looking forward to today's session. Today we will be talking about how to retain your current workforce, and our guest speaker will be Jim Gorrie from UK Business Mentoring. We've worked with Jim quite a lot here at the Chamber. You may have dealt with him as well through the Chamber if you've dealt with some of the business advice and things like that. So some of you may know him well, some of you might be your first introduction, but you're guaranteed to have a really good session today. Couple little housekeeping rules. Try and keep yourselves on mute for me if that's okay. Obviously, if you have a question, we'll ask you to unmute and ask a question to the group, or feel free to pop them into the chat, and we'll have regular stops throughout the session so that we can ask those questions for you. Keep your cameras on for us if possible. It's just quite nice when we can see everyone nodding along and that you're engaged and that we're not talking to some blank screens. And yeah, keep the chat flowing. Otherwise, I'll probably now pass on to Jim.
Molly, thanks. And I'm glad you said nodding along rather than nodding off. So that's good. Good morning, everyone. I'm going to share a presentation with you. I suppose what I'd ask is really one thing of you. I've been on sessions where I've not wanted to ask what I felt is a dumb question, and no question's dumb. This is a really important topic. You're giving up an hour of your working day, and that time is money to you. So please, I'd like you to walk away from this having got something key for you out of this. The slides will be made available afterwards, along with my details. So if there's something on this that pricks your conscience that you'd like to discuss more, please either pick up the phone to me or come to me via the Chamber. More than happy to speak with you about this. So, without further ado. So the topic we're looking at today is retaining staff, and it is something that is really, really important to me, and particularly important to every business that I help with. So just a little bit about who am I, and Molly very kindly covered this off. My name's Jim Gorrie. I'm part of UK Business Mentoring. I'm at the moment supporting the Chamber as well. We've been mentoring business owners since around about 2009, and we help them to grow their business, manage themselves and lead their people, help their business be more profitable, get more enjoyment out of their business, and really have a better work-life balance. And what we're really proud about is that we're rated #1 in the UK based on client feedback. So, retaining your staff, is it that important? Well, let me ask you a slightly different question. What would you do with £15,000? And the reason I put this number up is this is the average cost to a company of replacing an employee on a salary of around about £25,000 per year. And this is made up of hiring costs, onboarding and training, loss of productivity, and generally stress all round to the team that are left behind, but also to the leader and the manager and the business owner. So where do we get this number from? The average of the cost to you is between 60 to 200% of that person's salary, depending on their skill set. So, for example, if you're replacing a low skill employee, it's probably nearer the 60%. If you're replacing someone that needs an awful lot of qualifications, and people like lawyers, solicitors, construction industry, that cost to the business goes up. So think about that number. Think about that on your bottom line every time someone leaves. Therefore, training, managing, and retaining your employees is way more cost effective than continually hiring new ones. And that used to be very much the mindset in the old leadership, old management set. So what actually are the impacts on you of losing your business? So we've spoken about cost. There's also poor staff and customer experience. There's poor employee engagement. And this lowers morale and increases absenteeism, another cost to you. but also impacts you on the productivity for your business as well, which ultimately affects your bottom line. And what this leaves is unhappy staff, unhappy customers, and a business owner and leader. And as I've put there, it also reduces your costs because your costs are being eaten away all the time. So on the flip side, what are the benefits of retaining your staff? So first of all, retaining them, cost savings, and also the quality of work. The more experienced your staff are, the better the quality of the work, better the quality of the service they provide to you, but more importantly, your customers. It improves staff engagement and therefore creates more loyalty for them. You have a better workplace culture and improve morale among your team. And this does increase productivity, which ultimately leads to happy staff, happy customers, and a happy boss, and improved profits. So that's all fantastic stuff. So that's all fine saying that, but can you actually stop people leaving? And do you actually want to in some occasions? So whilst the title of this is how to retain your existing staff, it's not retaining them at all costs. And we're going to be talking about some skills that will help you lift the people's performance up. But ultimately, can you stop staff leaving? And the actual answer is no. And in this day and age, the idea of having a job for life has gone. And what you very much have is, on average, people have between 9 to 12 jobs during their working life. So as a business owner, as a leader, people leaving is part of our natural life cycle in effect. So whilst we can't stop them leaving, and we need to accept that, can we make them want to stay? And absolutely we can. So to help us to get them to stay, it would help with understanding what the main reasons are for people leaving. And let's deal with the elephant in the room. So very much when I speak to business leaders, the feeling is, well, the main reason that people leave is because of pay. They can get more pay elsewhere, and I haven't got a bottomless pit of money, which is a fair point. And normally there is an element of truth to that. But there's been several surveys done where paying compensation is in the top number of reasons for leaving, but actually ultimately only equate for about 25% of people leaving. Now, because of COVID, because there's 1.2 million job vacancies, pay has gone up. I'm not going to argue with that. But pay deals with 25%. And what I for the business owners that I work with, what I get them to focus on is, okay, if you've got a bottomless pit of money, fine, put money at it and give it to the people that are worth keeping. But actually, let's focus on the other 75% of reasons why people are leaving you, and let's deal with the things that are really within our control. So what are they? So the first one is overwhelming workload. I've got too much to do. Lack of opportunities for growth and progression. And notice it's not just about promotion, it's about growth as well as an individual within my job. Lack of support from my boss, lack of feedback, and lack of recognition. I have little opportunity within my job for decision making. And what they're actually saying is, my boss micromanages me. And actually, I come in, I do 8 hours a day, but there's no purpose to what I do. I don't understand the purpose. And this creates a toxic and negative work culture. And all of these things ultimately come down to poor or mediocre management. Now, the good news is, you could say, there's a lot there, but that's fine. That's easy to address. And actually, it's not that easy, because what you may well have found, depending on how long you've been a business owner or a leader, is that leading isn't a natural act. So what do I mean by that? When we start off in our careers, we become good at something. And whatever that skill is, whatever that task is, we become really, really good at it. And because we've become good at it, we're then made a leader. So all of a sudden, what got us there won't keep us within that become a good leader, because it's a whole different set of skills to be learnt and mastered. So accepting that and thinking, right, okay, that's fine. But if that's the case, how can I learn to effectively manage my people? And at the end, I'm going to talk about the support that's available out there, particularly within Kent, because there's a wealth of support available to business owners and leaders to help you with this really important topic around leading your people. So to start this conversation, let's start with what they want from you. It's really important to understand this. So the first thing they want from you is to understand they're working for something that means something. So I'd like to understand what the purpose and direction of the business is, what the values are, what you stand for, what we stand for. And this is fundamentally explaining to them what the why is. Why do I get up every morning to come in and do what I do? I'd like to be given clear job instructions. That's not micromanagement. Just make it clear what you need from me. And as I'm going along, tell me how I'm doing. So I'd like to know if I'm doing well. And if I'm not, then let's correct it. I'd like a degree of independence. I'd like space to do my job, because fundamentally, that's why you employed me. You employed me to come in and do a good job for you, my boss. And that's what I want to do. I'd like you to be open and transparent. You know, I'm a grown-up. You can tell me stuff. But also provide support when it's needed. So if I need you, be there for me. And I want to feel valued. So I'd like genuine praise and recognition. And then lastly, they want to work for a leader. They're not looking for a boss. They definitely don't want a mate. They've probably got enough of them. But they're also looking for you to be genuine and authentic. And if you are being something that you're not, people soon suss that out. And that will start to erode the purpose and direction and the why of people are working for you. Because fundamentally, whilst people work for the business, they're working for their boss. And they want to invest in you and believe that you are worth working with. So just to recap, it's not all about money why people leave. There's a lot of stuff within our control as business owners, as leaders, as managers, that we can deal with, that we can help support our teams with. So today, I just wanted to look at 4 key things. And within this time we've got, we won't solve everything, but I just wanted to give you a taste of the things that I think are particularly important for you to bring out the best of your people, which will help engage them in what you're doing. And they are being clear about what's required, giving and receiving feedback, conducting an effective one-to-one, and addressing underperformance. So just before I move forward, I've just seen if there are any questions, and there's not. So what I'm going to do is, and don't forget, if you've got any questions, or if I'm going too quick, whatever, please put them in the chat, and Molly will flag them up. Okay, but there will be a part where we'll come off screen and answer any questions you've got. Okay, so the very first skill I'd like to look at is being clear around what's required. Okay, and this normally starts with having effective objectives and appraisals. So think about this, we're at the beginning of the year, we're in January. You'd have opened up your business again after the Christmas and New Year break on the 3rd or 4th of Jan. You may have just come back on Monday. Start of a new year, what do you want to achieve? What do you want to achieve as an individual this year? And some call them New Year's resolutions. I call them business objectives. But what do you want to achieve as an individual? What do you want to achieve as a business? And to achieve that, how are you going to use the people around you to achieve that? And this is how you work out effective objective setting. So the process that you follow is, what are your business goals and objectives? What do you need or want to achieve? Off the back of this, what do you need the contribution to be for each individual, both performance-wise, but also behaviourally as well? And it's key for individuals to know what they are going to be responsible for. Because what this gives them is a sense of purpose, what we referred to on one of the previous screens. You want to make sure that the individual understands what's required of them, why, how, and also when. And we're going to talk a little bit more. I'm going to give you a tool for that in the next couple of slides. But that individual understanding is absolutely key. What development and training do they require to achieve what you need them to achieve? But also, not only what they want to achieve, what you need them to achieve now, but potentially development for their future. Then off the back of that, once you've agreed that, you would then agree when you're going to review their performance and get out of the way and let them do that. And this is normally achieved by providing some written objectives, personal development plan, and then regular appraisal and review of performance. It's an area that a lot of business owners miss because they're very busy doing stuff. And I'd like you to think about this. For most businesses, think about where your biggest investment is, where most of your money goes. And for most businesses, it goes into staff. So the biggest investment you make in your business. Then think about where you spend most of your time. Are you spending the most of your time with your biggest investment? And if you're not, that should prompt something for you to write something down and think about how you can address that. Because getting the most out of your people is absolutely key for any business. And what we've got on the screen, if you haven't got anything like this, please contact me afterwards. Happy to provide templates to you that you can use. So we've got the objectives set. They're written down. People know what they've got to do. So off they go. You can just let them get on with it. Okay. Now this is where a lot of business owners and leaders go wrong, because whilst they give objectives or tell people what to do, it doesn't get into enough detail. And I put down in most of our teams are not psychic. Pretty much most people aren't, but just in case we have someone on this meeting that is the exception, I'm going to most of the team are not psychic. And think about your experiences when you've been dealing with, for example, a boss, and everyone's had a boss at some point. Think about them asking you to do something. Think about you go away and you put your heart and soul into it, and you come back and you're really proud of the piece of work you've done. And then there's that soul-crushing moment when your boss goes, "That's not what I want. That's not what I wanted. For goodness sake, I'll do it myself." And as a boss, you may well have thought of that. It might have gone through your head. And what that creates is a lot of rework. So work has to be done more than once. And time is money. Causes a lot of stress and frustration. It can create anger, and normally anger towards you as the boss. Because I know I've worked with some people and all I've gone is, just bloody tell me what you want me to do and I'll do it. As the boss, getting away from that feeling of, I might as well do it myself. And it can get to the extreme where my staff can't do anything unless I'm supervising them. They can, if we're absolutely clear on what's required. And again, by doing that, improves their engagement, gives them purpose, gives them reason to stay. So the tool that I recommend that you get really good at is something called the success triangle. And you use this every time for someone coming into your business, someone starting a new job, or someone starting a new task or role. And you cover off three things, and you cover them in this order. So first of all, you make sure you're clear around what's required. You then make sure they're capable. And lastly, they're motivated. So what does this look like? So for the clear part, you'd make sure that they understand what's required, when, to what standard, and allow them to answer any questions back. But you will need to make sure they're absolutely crystal clear of what the picture is in your head of what good looks like. Once you've got that, you're then looking at capable. And this is where the skills and the tools come into play. So there's no point being crystal clear on what's required if I can't do it, or I haven't got the tools to do it, or even worse, I haven't got the time to do it. So make sure people are clear, make sure they're capable. Then lastly, motivated. And pay is only one part of this. People are motivated by performing, by exceeding goals, by being thanked. Yes, there is compensation reward within there, but it's not everything. And it can be as simple as, at the end of a week, going around people and thanking them for what they've done that week to look to make you, your business, your team successful. And always within this, explain to them why they're doing what they're doing. You will significantly increase their engagement in the task if they understand why they're doing it. Then they're clear, they've got the tools, then they'll be motivated because they can see what they're performing against, and you make yourself available to help if needed. And if you want to understand a little bit more around the why part of this, there's some excellent videos on YouTube by a guy called Simon Sinek, S-I-N-E-K. And I would strongly recommend looking at his video on the why. It's really useful for any business owner, anyone dealing with people. So, for looking at this, there are 3 golden rules. Number 1, go in order. So I have seen often where people start with, you've got this job and I'm going to show you how to do it. Always start with clear. So people are very clear on why they're doing something, but also what's expected of them, then capable. Go in order. Ask yourself at each section, how do you know? So for the clear part, for example, if I was speaking to Molly and I gave Molly a task, what most people will do is say, are you clear on that? And Molly would probably go, yes. What then happens is that the person goes away and they have a version of it. And then that gets back to that cycle of rework and frustration. And the reason that people go yes is either they don't want to appear silly, or they're polite, or there's a number of reasons in there that stop us going, no, actually, can you just go through that one more time? So what we get very good at is once you've given a message, ask that person to play it back. So they can play it back in their words, and you can tick off, ensure that they've fully understood what's required. Where it's capable, coach them, but then observe them doing what they need to do. So go in order, ask yourself how you know. And the last one is avoiding, people think that just by coaching you can correct things, and it's making sure you correct the right things. I'm going to mention this in our performance. Okay, so if someone's not quite doing what's required, go back to the success triangle, start with are they clear and get them to play it back, which you can correct. You can coach capable, but I see a lot of business leaders try and coach motivated, and that's an entirely different action. You can't coach motivation. If someone just doesn't want to do it, they don't want to do it. And it's worth finding out what may be getting in the way. It may be something, it may be you, it may be something that's going on outside. But find out what that is and see if you can help with it, but don't try and coach it. So the 3 golden rules: go in order, ask yourself, how do you know? And make sure if you've got an issue, you start at the beginning. You can correct clear, coach capable, but motivation, entirely different action. Okay. So you get this done, you're happy as the boss, people are clear, they've got the tools and skills, and they want to do a great job. Fantastic. Job done. But it isn't. Because once you've got that first part settled, we're then going to move to the next part of helping keep your people engaged, which is giving feedback. Now, just before I move forward, I'm just going to check got a good question from Owen. So Owen's asked a question: what frequency do you advise to conduct one-to-ones on? Okay, really good question. So depends on part one, how new someone is to the job or the role, because you would then get into more regular one-to-ones to make sure that the performance is as you would expect, the person's happy and they're not having any issues, because quite often people just get on with it and don't come back to you. And then as the performance gets to the level required, and you've got the evidence of that, you'd have probably less regular and shorter one-to-ones, but you'd have more check-ins rather than one-to-ones. What I would say though is, the very least, on an annual basis, I would have quarterly one-to-ones with each member of my team. Okay, and we're going to speak about how to do a one-to-one in a bit and the reasons for doing them, but it's absolutely key. I once had a colleague who didn't like doing one-to-ones, didn't see the need for them because, as he said, I've got my team all around the desk. Why do I need to do one-to-ones? I know how they're doing. They know what's in my mind. I don't need to. Okay. We had a conversation around this, and he then started doing one-to-ones away from the working place. And what he found was, it opened up a whole new world for his team, because the team were engaged because it was time with their boss, just one-to-one time, and the value on it was superb that both parties received. And also issues came out that couldn't be spoken about around a table. So we will speak about one-to-ones, but rule of thumb, when someone just started either a new job, a new role, or frequent one-to-ones, just to assess, make sure they're on track, give them confidence, give you confidence. But then as they get competent, at the very least, quarterly. And that's be looking at not only performance, but also behaviors as well. And the way I put it is, you don't want the best salesperson in the world if they're the most miserable SOB on God's earth. So, really good question, so thank you for that. So let's move to giving feedback. And giving feedback itself is a skill completely of its own. And what you normally see is, what I've normally seen is, feedback normally filters into two areas. So first of all, you have the boss who says, I give loads of feedback. So when we start delving into it, it's more rah-rah than feedback, and I'm going to explain why in a second. And what a lot of people have experienced is, you tend to get feedback when something's gone wrong. So for myself, feedback has two objectives, and this is all it has. The first one is to encourage someone to do more of. So using the success triangle, if someone's done what you require them to do, to the standard, to the frequency, saying well done. Thank you very much for doing that, and being very specific around what they've done. Because what that will then do is, they'll know for their boss what good looks like, and it will encourage them to do more. And then secondly, help improve upon. So if you see something that's not quite working, don't leave people just get on with it or wait for the one-to-one. Give people that feedback and help them to do a great job. So, giving feedback itself, how often would you do that? You will probably spend most of your day giving feedback. Think again about investment in your staff, how much money you're paying, how much time you spend. And you've either got the choice of doing an awful lot of stuff yourself, or making your staff as good, if not better than you are. Again, it improves morale, it improves staff engagement, you have a great culture. And ultimately what you're looking for is them to make you redundant for the right reason. So one way or another, staff tend to make a leader redundant. So if you do a really bad job, that will be picked up, and as a leader, you won't last very long. An ideal scenario is you make your team that good. You make them as good, if not better than you are. They don't need you. They will need you, but that's the ideal you're looking for. So what should giving feedback look like? So first of all, it should describe. It should very clearly set out what was good or what wasn't good. Give examples. Shouldn't be judgmental, it should be very fact-driven. You need to be honest. Okay? And it's not about feelings, it's being honest in the right way because you're giving real life examples. Being respectful and offer solutions. And by offering solutions, it doesn't mean that you need to come up with all the solutions. There's a really key question, 4 words, and I get really good at using these. What do you think? Ask your team what they think they should do, what they think the solution be. But those 4 key words, what do you think, are absolutely key for you as a leader to help your engagement with your team. But also make sure that giving feedback is timely. And by timely, don't wait a week to do it. If you see it, give feedback. Give someone a pat on the back. Give them a well done. I really like that. And don't be afraid to say that in front of their peers. Because actually what it's telling the peers is, this is what I like. And you're more likely to get it from the rest of the team. Now, if it's giving feedback where you're trying to address it, that's done in private. Okay, so praise feedback in public, corrective feedback in private. The last bit I'd say about this is just think about that when you're giving feedback, it should always have good intent. It should never be with bad intent, the point of the finger and I've got really angry. Okay, so never do it given in anger. It's not to embarrass or be personal. It's not to be held back for performance reviews. Performance reviews are purely a review of what happened in the year or in that period. It shouldn't have irrelevant information and it shouldn't be given without any justification. So feedback really key for you to make sure that your people are doing what you need them to do. So one last thing, giving feedback, getting really good at it is really important for any leader of any description. It does 2 things, encourages people to do more or helps them improve upon. There's a saying that feedback is a field of champions. If you think about any world-class athlete, anyone in sport, to be fair, anyone in business, people that are really darn good at what they do, give and also look to receive feedback. So the third skill we're going to talk about is conducting an effective one-to-one. So we've set the picture, the success triangle. We're giving feedback, people are doing a really great job. Why do we want to have a one-to-one with people? Well, as we started to touch on, there's a number of reasons. So helps you to improve an individual's performance. Eye-to-eye praise, that one-to-one time with the boss, with the leader, motivates the staff member. It's an opportunity to build relationship, air any issues, and discuss the future. It gives clarity and it's fair to both parties. It addresses underperformance. It's professional and it drives the performance of the business. And I'm going to repeat this from earlier on. It helps your staff member feel valued. Now, a lot of business owners then say, that's fine, but how do I do a one-to-one? I've seen at one extreme where it's judge, jury, and executioner, and where leaders basically get the staff member around the desk and go, right, let me tell you what I think. And that's not a one-to-one. What you're looking for is the staff member to understand how they're performing, what their future looks like, what they need to develop. It's their role, it's their career, it's their performance. So the model that I recommend for business owners to look at is using a thing called the 4Fs. And again, I'm going to push through this, and the slide is available along with the template. Happily contact myself afterwards or contact Molly and she'll contact me and I'll happily share it with you or even go through it. But these are the 4Fs that help you to do an effective one-to-one that will help your team member understand how they're doing. Okay, so the very first F we're going to look at is feelings. We're then going to look at facts. We're going to look at the future, and then we're going to look at feedback. So how this would go in practice is, at the start of a one-to-one, we will ask how the person's feeling. because feelings drive our behaviours and therefore our performance. So the kind of questions we might ask are, how are you? How do you enjoy working here? What do you think would improve things? And how do you feel specifically about your performance? You then move into the facts, the nitty-gritty, around how well are they doing against their objectives. So the objectives that you would have set for them that would be smart, so specific, measurable, achievable, realistic and timely, they would have clear sight of how they're performing. So you'd ask them what's been achieved, what's going well, what's not going so well, and what needs to improve. And you'll notice there's a lot of questions here. This is not giving our opinion. At some point we will reinforce what's being told, but we're going to ask them how they feel, how they're doing against their objectives, and then what does the future look like, both within their current job, what's going to be different, but also for future roles. Now, this can be a tricky one for some business leaders because they say as well, if I talk about the future and encourage them to develop, they could leave. And you're absolutely right, they could. What I will guarantee is that if you don't develop them, they will leave. Okay. We've already accepted that people leave, and they leave for a variety of reasons. Pay is only one of them. Okay. And it may well be that you have people that are really, really great and they want to progress. They might want to try something different. That's just life. While you've got them, you are the custodian of them and their careers. You're doing the best for them. If they go off and get a better job or a bigger job or a promotion, as their leader, you should be the first person saying, well done. And actually, you should feel really pleased with yourself because you'd have helped create that if you do these things. And that's a really good thing. What you don't want to be is the leader that because you did nothing, people just bugger off. That's not your role. You have moved from the person doing the stuff to actually being an enabler for your people. And actually what you tend to find is you give them a reason to stay. And if they can help you grow the business, then opportunities come alongside potentially more pay, more compensation, whatever that looks like. And then the last area is feedback, but it's feedback to you. What can you do as their manager differently that will bring out the best in them? What would they like more of? What would they like you to stop doing? What can I do to help you? And receiving feedback from your staff can be tough. And there are kind of a number of rules to think about when you're doing this. And they talk about feedback being a gift. If people are willing to give you feedback, accept it. Don't be defensive. Listen, don't rationalize. Make boundaries clear. This isn't about being personal. It's about you as the leader. Be calm. Ask for clarification, because quite often the feedback, you may not understand where someone's coming from, but ask for clarification around what that looks like. So the rules that were there for giving feedback are exactly the same for receiving feedback. And never react. Take time to reflect on what's coming back to you. And then think about what you're going to do. And if people have given you feedback, much like you will do with customers give you feedback, you'll say thank you and potentially tell them what you're going to do. Do exactly the same with staff. So, question from Molly. Would you recommend feedback like this in one-to-ones, or would you ever recommend anonymous feedback from staff? Okay. Most people feel more comfortable giving anonymous feedback. That's a fact, because what they tend to feel is if I say something the boss doesn't like, they're going to get me, or a version of. What you should be looking to develop as a leader is if you can follow these rules, I think people are more likely to want to give you feedback. If you're open to it, if you have an open door policy, then I'd be aiming for people coming to me and saying, I'm not so sure about that, but let me explain why. That's what you're looking for. I would never try and hold feedback back to a one-to-one if possible, certainly not for the staff member. Possibly you'll ask for feedback the first couple of times, the one-to-one for yourself, but encourage them. If they see something they don't like, come and speak to you. Because what you don't want to do is do something potentially seen as bad by the staff in month 1, and then wait to month 3 to get that feedback. Because what you then got is a couple of months of doing stuff that's hacking off your team, but you don't know you're doing it. So I think that's a really good question. So that's the feedback. So what we've done is setting the picture for the team so they feel engaged. Great, I know what I've got to go and do. You give them the skills to go off and do it, and you give them the space to do a great job, as good if not better than you. You'll give them feedback to make them feel great and help them do that great job, and if things aren't quite going right, then you'll help with that. And then they have their time with you as their boss on a one-to-one to talk about really how things are going, both now and in the future as well. And this is an opportunity to give you feedback. So remember, this isn't their chance to go, right, let me tell you, you've hacked me off, I'm going to hack you off now. The rules of feedback, do a session with your team around, this is what I want it to look like. So they hold you to account if you're not following as much as you will hold them to account. And if you think about this, all the stuff we're talking about here is creating an open and honest workplace, work culture. You're giving people a great environment to work. And I think this is absolutely key because going back to the pay thing, I'm currently working with a business, and they had someone leave for more money and a promotion, or so they thought, and they left. And within 4 days, they were phoning up and saying, can I have a job back? And what they found was, yes, they got more money. Yes, there was a title, but actually the job was the same level that they did. And actually the culture within the business was not great. They wanted to come back because whilst it wasn't as much money, they knew they were treated well, were treated fairly. Okay, so for me, it really hits that, again, for 25% of people, pay is the reason they leave. And I'm not saying pay isn't important. You need to pay your people fairly. But there are different ways of doing it. So if the team can help you be more profitable, then think about profit sharing, for example. So then everyone's got something in the fight for what's going on. Okay, so the next stage I just want to talk about, the next skill, is, when it gets there, it's not working, there we go, addressing underperformance. And you might think, well, okay, if I do that, that could get people out the door quicker. But this is not necessarily about for one person, it's about the team. So people tend to avoid this thinking either I'm a good person or I don't want to rock the boat, or they'll get better. Okay, addressing it early is better for everyone, especially you as the leader. If you leave it too long, it gets worse. If you don't deal with it, staff talk. And staff know who's doing well, staff know who aren't, staff know who's turning up late every day. They won't say it to their face, but they'll say it among themselves. And what you don't want is staff seeing that you're not doing anything about it. Now, this doesn't mean that you'll publicise what you're doing, but as sure as eggs are eggs, what will happen is you're addressing underperformance with someone. Normally what happens is that person will go off and moan and say, boss had a chat with me about this, that's really unfair. Their colleagues will agree verbally, but in their heads they go, oh, thank goodness someone's dealing with that. So make sure your staff will talk about the right things. And this will ensure that for the 20/60/80 impact, you're doing the right thing. If anyone who's hasn't seen this before, what you will have is in any workforce, 20% top performers, 60% doing a good job, 20% not great. If you do nothing with the bottom 20%, everyone starts to slip. You have a problem. But it's also worth considering the level of conversation you're going to have. And I call it blip indicator trend. If it's a one-off for somebody who normally performs well, just mention it. If it happens twice, that's an indicator, it's a slightly different conversation. And if it then becomes a third, that's a trend, and you'll have a different type of conversation. When you've got underperformance, don't ignore the success triangle. So if something's not quite working as it should, it's there to set something up, but it's also for you to assess why someone's underperforming. Starting with, are they not clear? Are they not capable? And if they're not motivated, different conversation. Now, if you're unsure then how to have the conversation, there's two models that I'll run through very quickly that might help you. The first one is a conversation called the GROW model. And this allows you to speak to someone, say, have a structured conversation. So again, I'm going to pick on Molly here. So the conversation will go, Molly, how are we doing? Let's talk about what's expected. So we're clear on what the goals are. We then look at what the reality is, how we perform against those goals. Right. What are the options that you can do to close that gap? And then what will you do next? So what are your goals? What's the reality? What are the options for you to close the gap? And then what are you going to do next? So the person takes ownership. So that's quite a nice model, quite a coachy one. Now, if that then doesn't work, you've then got the PRO model. And this is presenting what the problem is, which is facts-based, getting the person to respond with it, and then them taking ownership of what the problem is and what they're going to do about it. So the GROW PRO model can be used for different types of conversation, but help with underperformance. But what is key here is you follow up. Whatever you've agreed, you follow up on and you do it. And if it's good, let them know. And if it's not, you address it. So, in summary, what have we gone through? First of all, retaining staff. It's not all about money. If it's all about money, then you've just wasted 50 minutes of your life. But it's not. There's a lot that's within our control. So for those areas we're in your control, be brilliant at them. You're going to be an enabler for your team. So we'll be explaining the why, giving purpose, objectives, success triangle, feedback, an effective one-to-one, and address underperformance early. And by getting good at those, you will transform your workplace, how your teams feel, how they perform, and ultimately how your customers feel about you. Because we haven't spoken about the customer here, but engaged, well-performing staff provide great customer service. And ultimately, that's what we're after, because that will influence our bottom line, along with them to keep rehiring people. And I would be great at following up and praising, and ensure that if they leave, and people leave, ensure they leave for the right reasons. Because actually, if they do, they'll probably say really good things about you as a boss. Also, they might come back, which would be great. That's your investment in them. So I suppose I'm really wanting to open it up and see. I'm going to take it off, stop sharing for a second so I can see if people are awake. Hey, there we go. Good morning, everyone. Faces, that's lovely. Is there any questions from anyone? I've got a thumbs up from Kaz, so that's good. What I'd say is, if there are any questions or anything that you come up with this and want to ask about, the slides will be made available and I'll provide them to Molly to send out. If there's any area that you'd like more support on, then please contact me. Or if there's an area that you think actually we've not covered it here today, then please contact me and I'll do whatever I can to help. Okay. But if we've gone away from this and thinking actually a lot of this is within my control, how am I going to do that? For me, that's a really good thing. Okay. So if it's okay, then I'll just carry on and finish this off and then I can hand back to Molly. So there are no questions, but we're going to talk about the magic ingredient in all of this. And it is us as leaders. And I think this is really a key point. And I like this quote. I like Southwest Airlines anyway, or what they stood for. But if one, take away lots within your control. Secondly, think about where most of your money goes, your costs, that which is an investment. Are you spending that percentage of your time with your investment and getting the best out of them? And this quote really hits me. Your employees come first. And if you treat employees right, guess what? Your customers come back, and that makes your shareholders, and I put that as even business owner, happy. Start with employees, and the rest follows from that. And I totally, absolutely 100% endorse that. So he's there to help you with this and other challenges. So staff is only one of them. It's a big one. Let's not forget that latest stats, there's 1.2 million job vacancies throughout the UK. That's a lot of vacancies. And there's a lot of reasons for that. There's Brexit, there's COVID has affected it, there's people retiring early, all that kind of stuff. So actually holding on to people, the good people, is really key for you for a number of reasons. Who's there to help you with this and other challenges? And there's a lot of support within Kent. So you've got the Chamber, which do a fantastic job. And we've got a number of people from the Chamber on this webinar. And they support businesses in a range of ways. And it's not just about networking. And the support is fantastic. They do a great job. Alongside that, you have private coaches and mentors. So if you're looking for one, if you have a particular area that you want to look at, you've got great people like Owen on this call, and I think Damien Tree, Owen Williams, who is a coach for sales and helps businesses with that. So some great coaches. And if you're looking at that side of it, I find the one that suits you and your business and you think it's going to push you to get the results that you want. But there's also things such as Southeast Business Boost, which provides 12 hours of free mentoring for businesses, which can include your coaching as well as a business owner and leader. There's also enhanced business support, which is for businesses that have been in place for 2 years or more, have a certain turnover, and that's 36 hours. So if you would like support and would like to discuss this, please, my details will come up. Is seeking this support natural? Yes, it is, because as your business grows, your role changes and it moves from being a sole trader doing it all yourself. And as you take on people, you do less of the doing, more of the managing, the communications, the strategic stuff, and the leading. So as your journey is moving, so do your set of skills change dramatically. So don't be afraid to seek help with this. This is not leadership, and all the process that come in place is not natural. It can be taught, and I believe anyone can be a really good leader. Why have a business mentor? Well, that's primarily what I do, business coaching. It helps businesses. And if you look at the stats on the screen, the majority of people that have a mentor find a range of benefits. What is interesting though is, whilst there's great stats for mentors, only 15% of business owners have ever had or had a business mentor. Just to reiterate about our good selves from the beginning, why me, why us? I suppose overall, we're really proud of being rated #1 in the UK based on client feedback. And people stay with us because they want to. There's no contracts, there's no minimum period, you're not tied in for 12 months. And if you don't see value, you don't pay. And businesses like that freedom. And again, by giving that value-driven service, it makes people want to stay rather than leave. Which, funny enough, works again for us as business leaders with our teams. There are my details on screen. So you've got my phone number, you've got my email address. You can contact me as well through the Chamber. But I'd like to thank you all for your time today. I'm going to hand back to Molly. So I'll stop sharing. And yeah, Molly, thank you very much.
That's brilliant. Thank you so much, Jim. That's been really informative. And even I've made quite a lot of notes for the session. So thank you so much. Just wanted to do another quick check to see if anybody's had any last minute questions at all. Looks like we're all good. So thank you for putting your contact details in there. Like Jim said, if anyone would like a copy of the presentation slides at all, then please do reach out to either myself or to Jim, and we'll be happy to send those round.
And also any of the templates as well. I'll make them available. Yeah,
absolutely. Otherwise, I guess that just leaves me to just say thank you so much, and enjoy the rest of your day, everyone.
Have a good day, everyone.